The idea of gaining muscle in bodybuilding is actually very simple. And there's a lot of people in this world who make it a lot more difficult and a lot more complex than it needs to be. Not only do some people make it more complex than it needs to be, oftentimes a lot of people will give advice which is actually costing you a lot of gains. So in this video, I'm going to explain to you exactly why bulking is the superior strategy in bodybuilding for optimal muscle gain. And I'll also explain why other methods of muscle gain are inferior to bulking and how those inferior methods are costing you gains. First of all, I'm going to run through a general background behind bulking and some reasons why bulking is the best strategy for building optimal amounts of muscle mass. But first, one of my main goals is to help a lot of people build their dream physique through bodybuilding. And obviously one way I do that is by providing these valuable YouTube videos, but more specifically, I actually have a full bodybuilding guide, which can help those of you who might be getting started with bodybuilding. In this full bodybuilding guide, I go into depth about some of the best nutrition strategies for bulking and cutting, also some of the best workout splits, and general training habits. You can find it in the first link of the description down below. Now back to the video. Bulking has been a strategy in bodybuilding used for quite some time now, and many famous bodybuilders have used this strategy of bulking in the past, mainly for putting on the maximum amount of muscle mass possible in an efficient amount of time. Now in this video, I'm not going to get into the specifics of bulking, for example, like how much protein you need to eat per day, and that's because I've already made a video about that. So you can go check that out down below in the description as well. I am more or less going to be discussing bulking on a surface level, so basically the general idea and science behind it, and exactly what you can expect from bulking. So the general idea behind bulking is pretty simple. The idea is basically to eat more calories than you burn, coupled with a high amount of protein, as well as intense training. And bulking is a superior method to bodybuilding because you're giving your body a surplus amount of energy in the form of calories. You're also training intensely, ideally 5 to 6 times a week, and your body is also receiving plenty of protein from those calories, which rebuilds your muscles and makes them bigger and stronger. Now listen, what I am about to discuss is a topic that many people have an issue with when it comes to bulking. And that is, you need to eliminate the fear of gaining a lot of body fat while bulking. And that's because you're realistically not going to gain a whole lot of body fat very quickly like you may think. It actually takes quite a lot to get fat, so to speak. And also, you need to expect to gain a little bit of fat while you're bulking. It's just one of those things that you need to accept that's going to happen. And also, if you do start getting more fat than you desire to be, you can just cut back a little bit on the calories. But certainly don't give up on the bulk just because you're gaining fat. It's going to happen, just accept it. Gaining some fat during a bulk is a necessary evil, so to speak. And because of this fear of gaining fat, this has caused some people to come up with alternative methods to bodybuilding that don't include bulking, which also eliminates the fat gain. One of these different methods is called body recomposition, or maingaining, so to speak, where you have intentions of gaining muscle mass while also cutting body fat at the exact same time. And listen, you can certainly pull this off over time, but realistically, this is not an ideal way to put on a significant amount of muscle mass in bodybuilding in an efficient amount of time. And this is because in order to build muscle efficiently and effectively, you need to give your body a surplus amount of energy. And in this method of maingaining, it involves the idea of cutting body fat while also building muscle at the same time. So in order to cut that body fat, you need to deprive your body from the energy that you need to build the muscle. So when you try to do both of these things at the same time, building muscle and cutting body fat, like this alternative method calls for, you're not going to see the ideal amount of results that you would see if you were to just bulk on its own and focus on that and then cut at a different time. And this is because you're trying to do opposing things at the exact same time when you're doing this maingaining strategy. And you can think about it like tug of war. If you pull on a rope on both sides using the exact same force, the rope is going to have no motion. And that's what happens a lot of time when it comes to maingaining. Either that or very, very slow progress. You can also think about it like having a giant pool full of water, where this pool itself is like your mind, your body, your soul, and basically just you as a whole. And the water inside of that pool is your energy and your effort and your focus towards your goals. So let's say we have 2 openings on the bottom of the pool where water can flow out, and we put 2 buckets under each of those holes of water flowing out. And one of the buckets is building muscle, and the other is cutting body fat. And you'll eventually see that only so much of that water, aka your focus, your energy towards your goals, only so much of that can go to each bucket. However, if you focus on each goal at once, so if you put only one of those buckets, have only one hole of that water flowing into one of those buckets, you can actually put more focus, more time, more energy into each goal separately. And that's exactly why we do separate bulking phases on their own and then separate cutting phases on their own, so that you can put more of that time, energy, focus to each goal separately. And that is exactly why this bulking strategy is the superior method to gain optimal amounts of muscle mass in bodybuilding, because those bulking phases are designed to allocate as much as your mental focus and effort to strictly building muscle as much as possible and nothing else, because that's how you'll see the most progress. If you can put as much of that water in that one bucket as you possibly can, you'll get the most out of it. And listen, you can do the maingaining strategy that we mentioned before, but just know you are missing out on a great deal of progress. Here's another example. Imagine for 6 months, a guy tries to maingain the whole time, trying to cut body fat and build muscle at the exact same time for 6 months. And then imagine a different guy for 3 months doing an intense bulking cycle where he eats a lot of calories, gets a lot of protein in every day, and trains as hard as he can. And then imagine for the next 3 months, he cuts that body fat down to reveal all of that muscle that he built up during his bulking stage. Assume both guys are natural lifters. Who do you think saw more progress during those stages? I mean, really, come on. Ultimately, the only thing that differs between these two guys is their fear of bulking and gaining fat. And that's where I would ask, are you willing to gain a little bit of fat to see a hell of a lot of progress during a bulking season? Because the answer to that question is a major factor that I think differentiates the great bodybuilders apart from the average ones. And this is where I would also say, do not be afraid to bulk. Of course, if you found this video helpful, be sure to drop a like down below and subscribe. Go out there, crush your goals, and most importantly, take care.